Hi, and welcome to Sixcess Stories. We are your hosts, Christina Gent.
And Eric Ozarowski.
And this is where we get to share real conversations with the 6 Degrees community, all about life, leadership, and the power of meaningful connections. On today's episode, we have Tucker Napier, who is a Mississippi-born lover of all things art, golfer, and very proud husband and father who does freelance graphic design, web design, and UX design.
In this conversation with Tucker, we talk about his relationship to time and how it feels like it's passing him by related to his work and being a new dad. We talk about the impact of having a 1-year-old and how that's helped him grow as a human, the importance of having a sense of wonder and the way that his 1-year-old daughter, Nora, sees the world and kind of being reminded of this innocence of a child was a really cool piece of this conversation. We also get into his love for art and philosophy, and his Southern hospitality is just integrated through the whole thing and being raised in Mississippi. And we have a fun little piece around just mispronouncing words and wordplay on some stuff. So it was a really fun conversation with Tucker.
Yeah, this conversation just felt really calming, probably just more from his demeanor and his tone of voice. And it was fun just to learn a little bit more about the Southern roots and some of the fun things that we got to learn about his wife, Destiny, as well, which were quite funny and entertaining. And just to really hear the love that comes through. He's very much a family man. So please enjoy this episode of Sixcess Stories.
What's the check-in for today that's not energy specific?
Why can't it be energy specific?
We like to do the energy one, and
sure.
I would like to
challenge
you with love and respect to not do an energy one.
Look at you using one of our values. Let's do 1 to 3 words to describe this week so far.
Ooh, 1 to 3 words. Well, I mean, not trying to be generic, but I guess just personally, there's like a tiredness. Everybody experiences that when you're grinding through work. I guess there's been, I don't know, maybe I'd say like epiphany or something. Like there's a realization that, I'm not really going to get any more time in my day. So it's like, how do I increase my capacity, I guess, or something along those lines?
Sure.
Like, be more productive in the time that I do have, because like I was speaking to my own point a minute ago. Ironically, I was like working while listening to a video of a guy, a confessional type style video where he's talking about burnout and like how he wasted so many years of his life just slaving away at his job and without really knowing why. And he was talking about getting older. And like now your window of energy and focus is like contracting a little bit. And he's like, be aware of this, so that you realize like if you read a book, you may not be able to read for 2 hours straight anymore. Like just things like that. So like, what am I doing now to try to optimize my capacity, my productivity? Ironically, I was tuning out the video while listening.
The irony was very
while
real.
feeling like burnout, listening about burnout is very, very meta, I guess.
Definitely meta.
But I mean, they're like, I guess I would say like epiphany, kind of like that, like just like physically feeling like the need to change something to keep my energy higher and my productivity higher. I guess there's a limit to like the type of hacking you can do and all that, but that's been one. I guess my fatigue or my tiredness led to an epiphany about just be more productive. But
yeah, I heard fatigue, epiphany, productivity.
Productive. Maybe I would say productivity, or maybe just I don't really know how to put it in a word, but I don't know, just like values. Like what am I really valuing? There's so many more things that you can feel like you're not achieving or falling behind in.
It's endless.
The comparative kind of mindset, and personally, I feel like there's like going to be a shift. Now I'm like going down a rabbit hole, but maybe this is what the podcast is all about.
Yeah.
I feel like there's going to be a shift away from the metrics of success in our broader culture, where it's like, you know, a certain level of income or status or whatever else. You know, I feel like people are removing themselves from like social media, from all these things that are like subtly draining you.
Mm-hmm.
And draining your sense of satisfaction or contentment in life, because it's harder than ever to achieve these kind of what the past has given us as like metrics of success. Is getting harder to achieve in some ways, it seems.
Yeah.
But I think there's like a positive side of that, where it's like, don't look through the lens of the culture or the world. Consider for yourself like what is a good life for you, what makes you happy. Because like if you play someone else's game, like you're gonna get burnt out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I'm like thinking about that a lot.
Yeah, which most people don't think about it, but like, which game am I actually playing, and how am I keeping score in this game?
Yeah.
With everything that you just said, like the thing that popped up for me with the question you asked Christina was, so push and pull would be the 3 words. Like there's this push to keep going, and like I want to, you know, improve the business and generate more revenue so that we can be more financially stable and all these things, and grow and with the business and grow the membership, all this stuff. And then this pull of everything that you just said about like, yeah, but for what? Right? And I think there is this shift happening with, I want to talk about what you just said about success, because I have this little dream, or like this little nugget of a thing that I'm working on, where we kind of took over the Sixcess, so Sixcess brand. And one of my goals is like, can we get that word in the dictionary and have it redefine what success means as, do I have meaningful relationships that I get to celebrate? Whatever the actual definition of most of it right now is like wealth and fame and all this stuff. But can we redefine it as like, when I have everything that I feel like is important, who do I get to share that with?
Yeah. No, I love that idea. I mean, I feel like people have heard it said that joy isn't really complete until it's shared with someone else. You know, like if you have a success, but you're the only witness to it, and you don't even have the ability to like show it to anyone else, or like have them like celebrate with you, like there's something missing there.
1,000%.
Yeah, so much of the success that's, as in 2026 as society, as humans, we kind of, it's a very lonely success. And it's like, success at what cost? What did you give up to get there?
Right.
Where, and I'm doing some stuff with the website where it's like, I think the success that we're talking about is shared. Success is actually shared through relationships.
I added that into my signature, actually.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You really
I
like
liked
that?
it so much. Yeah, because Eric just showed me, like, yesterday, I think, just some updates with the website and some language and things that he's working on. And when I read Success is shared, I was like, oh man, that hits so hard, and I loved it. And so I put it into my signature immediately. I want that to be more of the message, and just where can we continue to share the brand and the messaging behind it. But real quick, yeah, I'll just say that the 3 words that came to mind, or maybe it's a 1 word or 2 words, is just roller coaster ride. This week specifically, I have felt like on Monday I got up and I didn't have anything scheduled to be in person, so I was like, you know what, I'm gonna walk over to a coffee shop that I like to go to and have myself a little day there. I don't like working from home at all, so was feeling pretty good. And then by the middle of the day, I think around 2 p.m., I'm literally sitting in this coffee shop and tears are welling up in my eyes just from just overwhelm and stress and whatever, right? Whatever is hitting me. And I'm just like, I'm about to cry in public right now. I need to walk my ass home. And then that evening we get on a team call, and it was the whole team together, and it just completely re-energized me, got me really excited. Everyone on the team was like so eager to support and do things and had ideas, and I was like, hell yeah, this is amazing. So just literally the roller coaster feeling in one day, right? And within 12 hours, 10 hours, whatever it was. And it's like, man, have I been feeling that a lot this week in particular. So that's my 3 words, or my 2 words, roller coaster ride.
Roller coaster ride.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good.
Sounds like the 3 of us it's very similar.
Yeah.
Right? It's this trying to find some center. I'm trying to be more centered in
Yes.
whatever the thing is that is pulling me, or that is taking my attention or taking my focus?
Mm-hmm.
Is that the right thing? Is kind of what I heard you say.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
I'm spending all this time working really, and I think this is a challenge for a lot of people. I'm working really hard, or I'm really busy, but what kind of busy is it? Is it just the things that actually matter, the things that move the needle, or is it, well, I have all these things on my to-do list and I'm getting them done?
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, like, thinking about 6 degrees and the values of 6 degrees and everything y'all just said, against the backdrop, once again, like, of our culture, which feels very, people are lonelier than ever.
Yeah.
It's been interesting to see that increase over time, because I remember, like, the first time I ever heard someone say the biggest problem in the world is loneliness was like 2012 or something, which feels like a prophetic statement, because it feels like that was long before things were as bad as they are now in terms of like.
So 2012 would have been like 4 years into Facebook.
Yeah,
existing,
like,
right?
yeah.
Like,
and that's interesting that's when the statement came out.
And that sounds about right. That
yeah,
sounds about right.
It was pretty far back now, and like just seeing how isolated and siloed off and divided and people are, and people are working remote, which is great, but people just get into their little virtual bubble and like are losing touch with 6 degrees values, like the human element. It's wonderful to work and to create something we're all proud of, but it really is all about the relationships at the end of the day. And I guess that's been like on my mind a lot over the last year. Because, I mean, if you're like just grinding so hard, this video I was too divided in my attention to pay to listen to, was talking about, you can have decades go by, and then before you allow that epiphany to kind of sink down into your bones and like actualize into any kind of new behavior in you.
Yeah. Well, especially, I mean, you have your daughter's 1, right?
Yeah.
She just turned 1. Nora's 1.
Yeah,
I would imagine like you were feeling that even more so, watching this tiny human go from being born, diapers, like all of the like everything that's happened in a year. And I was listening to something recently, and I'm curious how this lands for you. But like at some point, you're gonna change your last diaper with her, and you're not even gonna know it until way later.
Oh man, yeah.
Right? But that's a thing that's for sure gonna happen. So it's, how do I be as present and enjoy all of it as much as possible, because it's gonna go like that, right?
Yeah, that's a great one. That's a great thought. I mean, you really do feel the cliche, like tangibly feel it when you're like, they grow up so fast, and like time is just flying, like that. Time has felt like it's just been accelerating especially ever since Nora.
Yeah, I would imagine she's a little fast forward button for you.
Yeah, and
I can imagine too. It's that same feeling of, it's hard for me to evaluate and assess my own growth, right? The things that I'm working on, and I mean, it happens a lot with 6 degrees, and when we have talked about like, well, we're not X, Y, and Z yet, and we haven't reached these milestones yet. It's like, okay, and look back and see how far we've come, because we're in it, right? And so like with Nora, it's no, I'm actually watching this human grow, so I'm seeing the progression just throughout her entire life, right? And so that is a time warp for sure. Just to like, the fast forward button is like, no, I'm literally watching it. I'm watching somebody else and their growth, which is probably mind-blowing.
It is mind-blowing, all the little micro changes you see on a daily basis. You know?
What would you say
It's
that she like is so since becoming a dad? What's the biggest impact or biggest change that she has had, your daughter has had on you?
Oh, on me? Oh man, I think I mean, once again, I'm kind of falling back on these cliches. You just don't really, I guess, until you have a child in some way. It's hilarious that you're married, you don't have a baby, and then when the baby is born, you have the baby every day thereafter in your life. It's like from 0 to 1.
Yeah.
And then boom, you got a baby every day of your life, and you're like, wait a second, I can't imagine like not having Nora now.
Yeah.
Right.
And you're so filled with love for her that you're like, man, you just can't help it. I mean, I guess you feel the expansion of like love and purpose in your life. And that's been a really wonderful kind of effect that she's had on me. Nora's favorite word to say, her main word that she says is just, wow. Wow.
That's
wow,
so cute.
Wow.
That's so cute.
Adorable.
Wow. And it is so funny. But, and when you think about the beauty, I remember growing up, I loved like art and the humanities and English and all that in school. And I remember we'd be reading these books and it'd always be like, a big theme is the loss of innocence, And I just remember at the time I was like, man, all these books are about the loss of innocence. Why can't we read something else? I just felt like the theme was, I don't know, I'd seen it too much, or it wasn't as you go on in life, you're like, wait, that is the ultimate theme. Like that is everything. That's the Garden of Eden. That's all these meaningful, deep stories, and that's why we love to live again vicariously through our children.
Yeah.
And so I love that Nora says wow about all these things, because I don't know, having like a childlike sense of wonder or just a sense of astonishment at things, I think makes life more interesting and better.
Yeah.
And I just love that feeling, that lens of like wonder.
Yeah.
And to see, even though Nora's like, I don't even know if she knows what she's doing, but she's like, wow. But everything's new and interesting to her.
Yeah.
And so it makes you kind of look at it with a new eye, and it's just, it's just really, really fun.
Well, so the loss of innocence thing is really, so like similar to Last Diaper, like there will be a moment where she loses like the innocence of a child.
Yes.
I don't know when that will be. I don't know what age, but that happened. Like, I don't know. It might not be a moment, right? But like, there's some point where I was like, oh, like what happened?
Yeah, just little by little over time, right? I mean, and that's just our environments. Like, there's so much, and it's not just from the parents; it's from the world, right? The older that kids get, and then they get introduced to other kids, and then schools, and then other families, and how they parent, and right, all of those little tiny moments is what ends up building up the personality and that loss of innocence.
Yeah, and the childlike wonder, though, I've heard this before, where it's like people are like, oh, like the best people or the people that kind of quote unquote get it in life, they have that, or they bring it to their work, or they bring it to their life, or they grow older, not up, right?
Yeah, that's a great way. I've never heard that. That's a good one. Growing
I haven't heard that either.
older.
I like
No,
that. Growing
not
older,
up.
not growing up.
Yeah.
I love that. I mean, I agree. The people that are like the most inspiring and just life-giving to be around for me are people that kind of have that spirit about them. Yeah, like I always think of my favorite writer was a person like that. Like he was just this. His name is G.K. Chesterton. If anyone knows me, they're like, oh, here we go. Tucker's talking about G.K. Chesterton again. But, like, there's so many vague thoughts I've had in the back of my mind that he just perfectly articulated. And you just, that wonder rush of, like, that's exactly what I have been thinking about.
That's
I've
what
been
I think.
feeling. Yeah. Put into words, and it's just a wonderful feeling. And he just had a very, like, kind of magical view on life.
When did you discover his work?
Man, how did I discover him? I was probably in high school.
Okay.
And he was an influence on another writer that I really liked. I was like, oh, wow, well, if he admires him, I got to check him out.
Yeah.
And then I was like, man, this is like the best. So Chesterton, I guess just a quick illustration of who he was. He was a journalist. He was an artist. He was a philosopher, theologian. He just deeply engaged with a lot of things, and in a really like fun-filled way. Like I just think like I love when someone can combine like levity and profundity at the same time, where it's like, oh, it's a really deep insight wrapped into a joke.
Sure.
And you're like, what is going on? Because you're like you're like laughing, you're like, wait, that's actually really deep.
Well, those are the best comedians.
That's
in my experience. This is smart. This is smart funny.
Yeah.
This is intelligent, and there's an underlying layer to the joke that I don't know that everyone's getting while they're laughing.
Yeah.
And like Chappelle, Dave
Yeah.
Chappelle is one of my favorite people.
I love Chappelle.
Most of what he does, like I'll watch it 2 or 3 times because first time I'll just watch it to laugh. Second time, I'm like, but what is he actually trying to say?
Yeah.
because it's usually more than just the joke.
Yeah, Chappelle is a great example. I feel like he's like a philosopher in a way. You know, he's one of the best cultural critics. You know, but he's a comedian. You know, I feel like you get better analysis of the state of our culture through watching one of his like specials.
Through his lens, and it's articulate, and it's done in a way that I think it's probably similar. Like I connect to it, like the way the language he uses and stuff.
It's like more honest and more accurate, I guess, his analysis of culture through his jokes, you know, than it is like on any kind of mainstream kind of news or
100%.
You know, whatever. And what I like about Chappelle is he has like a leading joke, all the stuff in between, and without you realizing it, he ties it back into the initial thing.
Yeah, he's
at
really
the
good
end,
at the recall.
And you're just like, that feeling of, oh, it's like completed now.
Right.
We went on this journey.
Yeah.
And it's completed, and there's like a wonderful feeling with that.
Yeah.
And so, like, back to Chesterton, he often seems to do that, in my opinion, like, as I'm reading him, like, the ideas, it just, I don't know, it makes me excited, energizes me. But he had a quote, all that to say, he had a quote that the world does not lack for wonders, it lacks for wonder. Which is like a very economical way of saying, like, if you just have like a sense of wonder, then you find wonders all around you.
Yeah.
You know, that basic idea. And that's what I kind of think of, like, with Nora. That. You know, like with kids, that's what's so amazing about kids. We grow older and we get so, like, I don't know, just
well, the world can be so serious, right?
Yeah.
And it's as we become adults and grow older, and there's bills and life and people pass away and things happen and tragedy, like all these things happen. It's so easy to just get like, fuck. Right? And then like the way that the media and just we're exposed to more in the world, and it's like there's wars and there's all this stuff happening, and right? And so it's easy to just lose the wonder. And when I heard you say that, like I heard curiosity of just like the interest around that. So I'm kind of interested in his work. I kind of want to go down that rabbit hole a little bit.
Check it out. I mean, he was a prolific writer. He wrote mystery novels. He wrote tons of essays, which are just amazing. But what you're saying, like the negativity bias in our culture, you know, if it bleeds, it leads. And, you know, we're just pummeled by far more like negatively laced things than any kind of positive. So it wears you down.
Yeah. And
you got to have some kind of antidote to that.
I think art is an answer to that, right? It's an expression, and even just the feeling of being in a creative space or being around someone that's creating. I think that to me, like, that is the answer that the world needs is art.
I totally agree.
Right? And Christine, I saw you kind of have something before I started talking. Maybe not.
Well, yeah, but now it's not relevant.
Not relevant anymore. I apologize for
No, you're fine.
Talking about art. And so, I mean, for you, obviously art is a big part. Do you consider yourself an artist? As like, I know for graphic designer and freelancer, but and I would very much say you are.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like in a general comparative sense, I might say that. You know, back to like Childlike Wonder, when I was a kid, that was like my self-identification. I'm like, I'm an artist.
Yeah.
I'm an artist. You know, now, you know, it's funny. I feel like I would be more prone to say I'm a designer. You know, it's not because, but I think like within, I'd be like, yeah, I'm an artist, you know.
Yeah.
I guess what's the difference for you between an artist and a designer?
Well, I guess for me, I really don't I guess there's fine art and design. There's a distinction there, but I would be fine calling it all, or just referring to all that as like being an artist. But I think, you know, one thing that's been on my mind, back to like how are you like creating a holistic sense of well-being, is growing up when I would self-identify as an artist, I was drawing all the time. You know, I couldn't
living, breathing.
Yeah, living, breathing. It was all my spare time, and I just got lost in it and loved it.
Yeah.
And then, like, I kind of put it on hold, like, through high school, as probably most people do, focus on other things. And then, like, getting into college, like, I went back into art and kind of did a lot of fine art and, like, really loved it. Very proud of what I did with my the fine art side of my portfolio. And then you go out and then you get a job. And then you're like, wait, it's so hard to find time for the passion projects, that don't have any utility, or they're not going to like earn you anything. Like, you find it harder to justify time, or maybe you don't have the energy. And so like nowadays I'm like, I don't feel like I'm creating art for my own pleasure or just sense of identity as much as I did in the past. And I think that is what makes me stop short sometimes and be like, I'm an artist,
Yeah.
Well, I mean, what you just described is like the loss of innocence as an artist, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was a kid and I would just draw for hours, and then high school happened and I stopped, and now I do it professionally and I get paid to do it, and there's not as the passion behind some of those projects, right? And I feel like that's really common for any sort of art, where it's like, who am I doing the art for? Rick Rubin's one of my favorite people, and he has a quote. Have you read The Creative Act from him?
I want to say yes. I've definitely listened to some of his.
It's a few years old. It's like maybe 10 years old. But he has a line in there. There's no such thing as a true artist making something for anyone but themselves. It's not art if I make it for someone else. As the artist, I'm making it for me, and I will attract the people who it's for, right? But the second I'm a musician and I try to sing the mega hit for the audience and make sure that I want my fans to be happy, it's like something happens to the quote-unquote art that loses its essence, or probably loses the innocence of it or whatever.
No, Rick Rubin is a legend. I remember being so inspired by listening to him talk about the creative process a couple years ago, just like some interviews, and some of the albums he's worked on, the different types of people, and how he can how the process is different. He's so open.
He's Christina, do you know much about him?
I don't know that I do.
No?
He looks like ZZ Top almost. He's
big,
like a
white, bushy beard.
He looks like a Zen. He looks like a monk almost.
Walk around with shoes most of the time. There's so many. For anyone that doesn't know him, I highly recommend just finding an interview of him. Watch 10 minutes, and he's such an interesting person. He would describe himself as someone with no musical technical skill, and he's been he's been listed as a producer on all of these, from Jay-Z to Eminem to
that's right.
Nine Inch Nails.
Everybody.
But there's this interview with him and Benny Blanco.
Yeah.
And but he's like, they're like working on Ed Sheeran's album or whatever, and Benny's a producer, and he has this specific interaction where Rick Rubin comes in and he goes and listens to the song. He goes, "This song makes me feel orange."
Okay.
And then Benny's like, "Well, what should we do?" He goes, "You'll figure it out." and then
That's amazing.
And then he goes, "I don't know why that worked, but it worked, because it did make me feel orange, and it doesn't make me feel orange anymore, and it unlocked the song."
Wow.
Like, as a really crazy example of like,
he's like a mystical kind of guy in a way. But
so even what you said, it's interesting because so as you were talking about like the designer versus artist, and hear everything you said, I'm a big fan of Seth Godin, who's like marketing, business professional marketing. He's written a bunch of books and an author and stuff, and he has this thing where if I want it to be, every act, it can be an act of art. Whether I'm like I'm in the insurance world, or I'm building a business, or I'm a baker, or making drinks, or a hostess at a restaurant, like there is art there. If I lean into being an artist from the beginning, I can actually bring purpose to the job, and I can make it art. There's an art to it. And I hear everything that you said about, and when I was younger, I used to do it all the time, living, breathing, and it was everything, and that's different.
Well, no, I love what you're saying. Like, I think that's a great perspective to have, because then you don't look at your life in this like compartmentalized way where like, oh, here's the sliver of my life that actually has purpose. You, with that perspective, you kind of imbue everything you're doing with purpose and with art, with an intention, which is really, I think, can be pretty transformative in a way.
Right, because there's a creativity to it.
Because we can even shout out your wife right now, Destiny, who like the art of the food that she's creating, right? I mean, a chef is very much an artist in the way that they not only put together the dish and the flavors, but also even the way that things are plated and the aesthetic of it. But then even just, so the most recent dinner that we did with her, the kitchen was very much in the room with us, right? So like it was all just one big room. So we were, I mean, I don't know how many people were like watching her and like the way that she was moving, but there were certain moments where I was able to see even just the way that things were timed a certain way and the order of operations for like this dish for this long and this is next. And I was like, yeah, there's an art and science happening here simultaneously. I have to learn how to do both things and how they all form together to now create the entire experience.
Yeah, shout out to my beautiful wife, Destiny.
Hell yeah. I mean, her food.
On the airwaves.
I can't stop talking about it. Anytime I get to talk about our Savor dinners, and I'm like, yeah. And then sometimes we get to work with this private chef who literally would have a Michelin star if she was in a restaurant. And the people, anyone who's experienced it, who's been part of 6 Degrees, are literally minds are exploding. Like, I mean, it's just so much fun, and it's really fun to introduce more and more people to her art.
Yeah, you know, like, Des is incredibly talented. One thing that the culinary world is probably a pocket of the art world that I probably like had the least experience in a way. Like, I guess I would always identify as a foodie in a way, but like I'm not learning about, or I'm not, we've watched every episode of Chef's Table. We're like always, now I'm just like Des, like we're just looking at these restaurants in the holistic sense, the interior design, like the menu design, the actual food and the presentation and like everything, the service, the branding, everything.
Yeah.
And like you're saying, like it's really fun to see Des work.
Yeah.
You know, do a private event. It's actually like a lot of different things, like you're saying, like it's almost like music and conducting, because you got to prep all the plates and everything's in order. You've got to prepare it. You've got to keep it on in tempo in a way to make sure things go out on time. But the plating is so intentional and is beautiful.
Yeah.
You know, and like you're eating art in that situation. And it's kind of one of those things where like it's more than the sum of its parts, you know, because every aspect of something was very intentionally done, and it creates an experience a little bigger than all the little pieces that comprise it. And I think that's kind of like a sign of a great work of art, you know. And yeah, I definitely think the culinary world is like that. And Destiny, my beautiful wife Destiny is incredibly
What's
talented.
your favorite thing for her to cook for you?
Oh,
if
man,
last meal and
she's making it.
She's
what are you
cooking.
asking?
What's she making you?
There's so many things. Actually, like, it's kind of funny. It's like a low-key flex, but I'll just take pictures of things Destiny makes just on a regular weeknight. Yeah. She like makes all this cool like plating and all. It's like, this is amazing. And I'll just keep them on my phone and be like, oh yeah, my wife, she's a chef. Oh yeah, she made this just the other night, but was laying around, you know. And it's like amazing. But last meal, I think some of my favorite stuff, Des loves like Singaporean and Asian food, and she does this like it's like a pork ragu with like a fried eggplant with this like creamy sauce. I ate so much of it that I was like complaining. And she's like you can't keep overeating, and so that happens a lot. I just, you know, it's so good, you know, you just can't stop. And next thing you know, like, I'm too tired to do anything. I can't get off the couch.
Just Thanksgiving full.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, she's incredibly talented.
She is, my experience, I would say one of the best chefs in San Diego.
Oh yeah.
That I have had the pleasure of having.
She's trained me. Now I'm like, you know what? I'm like thinking about the acid and the salt and the balance of these different meals we're having, and
that's cool.
You know, it does make it more fun when you're like understanding what creates like a great bite, or like.
Well, there is, I mean, kind of what we're talking about. There's a science to it, right? There is like certain things go with certain things, and if I understand the basics, like I can play around. There's a bunch of different variations I can play around with.
Yeah.
Well, which, like, there's a science too. So in the design world, right, understanding like colors and how colors match and don't match and go together, and which colors make other colors, and right, like that's a science, right? There's a science piece that is embedded into the art. It's flowing. It's harmony between the two.
Yeah.
I loved it, and I want to go get to that. I loved it. So you're from Mississippi, right?
Mm-hmm.
So take us just kind of through the life of Tucker.
Oh man.
So how did you get to San Diego? How did you get to doing what you're doing as a freelance designer? And then we can jump into what Christina just was talking about with your approach to design.
Yeah, so like going back, I guess, to what I was saying a little bit earlier, like growing up, drawing was my identity. That was what I did, and I guess I really prided myself in being known as the artist, the best.
Did you have like a specific style, or
like
charcoal?
Funnily enough, growing up, like it was just all like pencil drawings.
Yeah.
In elementary school, the one thing I loved as a kid was Dragon Ball Z.
Sure.
Nice.
And so I would just draw stuff like that all the time, and then there'd be like kids in class who'd be like, "Hey Tucker, draw me one of those, man. I got put it in my binder." Yeah, people would like put like a cool drawing on the. So like I loved when people would like come up to me and like ask for me to like help them in their art project or draw or whatever it is. So that was always like part of my identity. Yeah, growing up in Tupelo, Mississippi, it's a town of about 40,000 people now. It's like a wonderful family town.
Yeah.
Our claim to fame is that's where Elvis Presley was born.
Okay.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Okay.
And his house is hardly bigger than this room, like for real.
Wow.
It's like a depression era, like one room house.
Wow.
Yeah, but he was born in Tupelo, and his high school is my elementary school. But yeah, I grew up there and really enjoyed growing up there, to be honest. Lots of good people. I mean, the South, I guess the reason I left was, like the South, I always tell people it's just a lot of good people.
Yeah.
And, good old Southern soul food.
Southern hospitality.
Southern hospitality. Not as much to do, at least in Mississippi, like flat Mississippi, in terms of, there's not a lot of big cities in Mississippi. There's not any mountains. It's hot and humid, and I love all the sports. I did all that, and I love that, but not to the same level as like some of my other interests. So it was probably when I would work the summers in Colorado during college. I guess just fast forwarding all the way up to that. And ever since going out to Colorado, like I just loved the West and the mountains and outdoor adventure. And so a lot of my best friends I met out there, basically Durango, Colorado. One of them was in the Navy out here.
Okay.
And so when I graduated from Mississippi State, he was like, "Tuck, just move out here, man. Just San Diego's awesome." So I was like, all right. So I just drove all the way out here.
Wow.
Moved in with him, and then he basically got deployed in like 2 months. So I met some other buddies through him, and that's how I got out here.
How long ago was that?
Golly, it's like 11 years ago now, which is, it's crazy to think about.
Well, that's the time part that you were talking about. It's like
back to the time part, yeah. It's crazy to think that it's been that long. But yeah, that's how I got out here, but I do enjoy like growing up in Mississippi. I love to tell people it's the buckle of the Bible Belt down south.
Buckle of the Bible Belt.
It's, but when you grow up in a place, you're like, oh man, like, when you're so close to something like y'all were talking about earlier, you can't really see every facet of it. And then once you're like, I got to get out of here. I got to experience something else. And then you move. A lot of people think California is very opposite almost of Mississippi, and in many ways it is. But you get out there and you realize that there's a lot of wonderful things here. And then You kind of see the virtues and the vices of both places a little more clearly, having lived in each one,
Yeah, for
rather
sure.
than just the low res like caricature version of each state or each community of people. And so it really like made me, I enjoyed growing up in Tupelo, but moving away like definitely makes me value the people in Mississippi and just the upbringing I had, and also, you know, like I love California. It's just,
Yeah.
if not, you know, Mississippi's the cheapest state you can live.
Is it? Is it?
Yeah.
Is that? Is
Wait,
that?
I didn't know that. That's
Yeah, it
interesting.
is. It's the cheapest state. So it's like, I mean, we're also one of the poorest states, but it is kind of crazy to think about that contrast all the time, which I do. I'm like, oh my gosh, my brother's mortgage is just barely above what I'm paying for rent, and he has a beautiful home. There's a
Yeah.
lot of different things there's trade-offs everywhere you look. But,
Sure.
but yeah, I love San Diego, and yeah, it's been cool to have both experiences, you know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for you, Christian, I would imagine Kansas and Mississippi are similar in some ways more than. I've never been to Mississippi, so
I bet they're
I actually
Yeah.
got
don't know.
something.
But just the way that you, like, the heart that you have for, like, growing up in this town and, like, the people, and I've heard, Christine, I've heard you say similar things.
For sure. Yeah, I think that Kansas isn't in the South, and at the same time, like, definitely it is, the values are, I think, probably pretty similar to the South and some of the, you know, the Southern hospitality, that kind of thing. It's because it's like very like Midwest like vibes and that thing, right? So I think, even, I know, Eric, you grew up and it was a little bit bigger, you know, Chicago. I know you weren't like necessarily in the city, but just a little bit different from the middle of nowhere Kansas, or a small town in Mississippi. But yeah, I can see even just the perspective piece that you're talking about, and having lived in multiple places, and even as a kid, my mom and I moved around quite a bit. I lived in Texas and Mexico and Arizona, and it definitely was very different, right? The middle of Kansas was not diverse in any way, shape, or form, right? And so even just that aspect alone, and the difference of when I was going to school in Tucson, Arizona versus the middle of Kansas and Lindsborg, drastically different. So I could see how that could be similar to probably the experience in Mississippi.
Yeah, it's interesting. But yeah, one thing that's been fun about being from Mississippi is when you move to somewhere like California, you become the only person from Mississippi someone's ever met. So you
That's
become,
true. I've never met anyone else from Mississippi.
you know, yeah. So
That's funny, yeah.
you become the great iconoclast to all their like ideas about what the South is, you know. And they're like, I'm like, yeah, look, got shoes on my feet, just blasting away these. No, it's fun though. It's fun to be from Mississippi. Oh, I love Mississippi.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think I would move back.
What do you miss? What do you miss most?
I miss the people. Like,
Yeah.
we just had a wonderful, you know, this past Christmas was a wonderful time for our family. I mean, it was a difficult time as we're dealing with the loss of some family.
Yeah.
But it was a wonderful time, and my wife's family came and stayed with us in Tupelo, and you know, we had a great time in Tupelo. We went to Oxford, where I went to Mississippi State, but Oxford, Mississippi is where Ole Miss
Okay.
is,
okay.
and it's a beautiful little town with some cool history to it. And it was just a lot of fun to be walking around the square in Oxford, and every person you saw was like saying like, hey, how y'all doing? And talking to Nora, like they just love families. Everyone was just so, the Southern hospitality just felt like it was like dialed up extra. And I was like,
I'm family when I walk around in the
Yeah.
South. It feels.
there's something nice about it. There's an underbelly to everything, you know.
For sure.
You know,
Well, there's nice parts of anywhere, and there's not so
Yeah.
nice parts of anywhere, right?
Right.
yeah. I think one of the funnier ones though is like people like to be polite, you know, in the South, but because there's such an emphasis on like politeness and a certain amount of manners, you end up finding, you know, some people are like, wait, was that God bless you? Was that bless you like a good thing? Or
Were
they like,
was it not?
Did she say bless your heart like with earnestness? Or did she say bless your heart? It was like, you know, like, you know what I mean? But it's funny how that is. But yeah, lots of great people, great characters, I'd say, like storytellers, and
Yeah.
it's fun.
As the only person that I know from Mississippi, I don't know that there's any. I'm gonna just ask: is there any sort of rivalry with Missouri because they're spelled the same, like or similar?
Not that I know of.
No,
Yeah,
it's not a thing. Like in my head, I'm like,
Wait.
Missouri and Mississippi. I would imagine there's like a conflict.
It's
because-
funny
Because
that
they're not even spelled. What are you talking
well,
about?
the MISS off the top,
Yeah.
you know. But the funny thing is, everybody knows how to spell Mississippi because everybody grew up
Yep.
one
Hearing.
Mississippi, two Mississippi, all that kind of stuff. One thing that's funny about Missouri is, growing up, I didn't really consider it like the South in a way, but
Missouri is not the South to
I mean,
Mississippi.
in my mind it wasn't. But it is a southern place. Like, it is like they
Sure.
got some country people.
Some
And
Well,
it's
yeah,
coming-
country folk.
The Ozarks, like, are you joking? Like,
Yeah.
it's very.
Come
Well,
on.
so I
from-
guess my question is like, so in Illinois, it's Wisconsin, and there's kind of like this Illinois-Wisconsin rivalry.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is for Kansas. Probably Kansas and Missouri.
It's Missouri.
Okay. So
Yeah.
what
Well,
is
'cause
what
it's-
is the Mississippi
'cause it's
rivalry
sports.
as a state?
Because it's sports related, right?
Yeah.
I mean, in my mind, it's sports related. To me, it's the Royals versus the St. Louis, right? Why am I blanking?
The Cardinals?
The Cardinals. Oh my God. I literally couldn't. It's like the sports conversation and like where these rivalries will start. And even going to like college, right? So both of the KU and K-State, they were rival schools with Missouri. Like, it was, right? And some of them will be like, I didn't consider you a rivalry, whatever
Yeah,
that
that's
conversation
true.
is.
I
But
guess-
I think that's where I see more of that come up.
Yeah.
In my head, I just thought they're spelled the same, but that would be the equivalent of Kansas and Arkansas.
Mm-hmm.
Are they mad at each other?
No, literally no.
They don't. Yeah. So it's,
Yeah,
it's
if
a
we
dumb
had
question.
a rival,
I regret asking
if
it.
Mississippi has a rival, like, yeah, it's probably all comes down to college sports, and it'd be like Alabama and LSU.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, that
Um,
makes sense.
But yeah, I just remember in high school, there's a new kid that moved into our class named Doug, and he was from Missouri. He had such a country accent. I was like, I didn't know that he sounded that southern up there. I just always got a kick out of that. Like, I don't even know how I got on that. But there's good old country folk everywhere you go,
Yeah.
really.
Do you have a favorite saying, a Southern saying that
Oh,
I don't? Because
man.
we've known you for a while, and I don't know that.
Oh, man.
I think you're very. My experience of you is like you're very, just quiet and very. Just even the way that you speak is very methodical, and I really appreciate it. It's very calming.
Thanks.
And I'm curious, but I don't really hear you. I wouldn't say like, oh, like Tucker has like an accent.
Oh,
or he says,
yeah.
like,
Yeah,
the-
I don't really
like
hear.
the
For
twangy
whatever
slang.
reason, like, me and my brother, we don't have the strongest accent. For some reason, my sister sounds extra country. God bless her. God love her. But yeah, it's funny. I think the way I talk, I meant to say right off the top, if you're listening to this, you might need to go like 1.5x on my voice in post-production, because, I know it's like I speak like kind of low and slow. It's funny, people like in college, there's a teacher I had that was like, some people thought I was from California because of the way I talk, but I don't know if I sounded like a stoner or something. So,
That's interesting.
but then some people say they really detect an accent, but then knowing how thick other people's accents can be, I'm like, I don't really have one. But
When you're back home, I love hearing when
I
someone gives me one of these.
yeah, like a colloquialism or something, like something like
yeah.
a phrase people say. Man, I'm just like starting to think of, I'm thinking the dumbest stuff ever right now. Let's
That's
see,
what I
like
want.
a
I want the dumb stuff.
A
That's-
good phrase. Well, maybe you can like give me an example.
I was like, well, what's yours
Y'all
from
come
Chicago?
back now. You hear like stuff like
Oh.
you know what I mean?
Say even like.
But like,
simple.
what would you even say for Chicago, right? And growing up in Chicago, like, what's something that is very
Chicago, some very sausage. Like
okay? So that's
it's more of the
accent.
It's
piece.
more of the thing. Well, yeah, it's like when the accent shows up in a way. Like
Sure.
I can hear it in certain things, and it makes me. It just makes me like warm inside when someone's like, "Yeah, I'm from Chicago." And right? Or like
When
the
they,
or like the Boston thing is "park the car," right? Like,
Yeah.
what is there a Mississippi version
even
of
just
that?
the accent? Yeah, like I love accents, but yeah, Mississippi, like Southern accents. I think it's funny how, like, my grandfather would be an example of someone that says like Sunday. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, stuff like that. Or I just love y'all over you guys. You know,
Yeah.
I'll take y'all like all day long.
Yeah.
Over you guys. Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I was just, if you had one.
There was this funny test I took one time where it was like you answer all these questions and it'll determine where you're from down to the county.
Down to the county.
It was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure it got like my county, and it'd be like, what do you call this, you know, or what do you call that? And it's just like all these little clues build up, I guess, to just like the language, the vocabulary of different regions and people. And
That's wild.
Well, yeah, I remember. I mean, we did that. We were in the. I specifically remember back in the bar. We had a version of this. It was a bar conversation around it. But like, so the example was, what do you call the things that you wear on your feet when you go work out? What are those called for you?
Oh, people say like tennis shoes or sneakers.
Yeah, what is it for you?
I'd say tennis shoes.
Tennis shoes.
Tennis shoes.
So in for whatever reason, there's maps of these different, kind of what you're talking about, like different parts of the country, but specifically in Illinois, those are gym shoes.
Gym shoes, yeah.
And we're the minority based on the map and the way it goes.
Yeah.
Like, there's this little part of Illinois and like it's part of Indiana or something. It's gym shoes.
Those are gym
but
shoes.
like,
I would literally never call them gym shoes.
Yeah,
I think an
gym
example that I remember from that test was like in a lot of southern states, they'll call a semi truck an 18-wheeler.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's definitely
And
a thing.
I always grew up calling it 18-wheeler.
Yeah.
And that's actually like kind of a mouthful, you know.
Yeah, 18-wheeler. My goodness.
But like that's just, yeah, it's like funny little things.
There's a bunch of little. Another one that we talked about, and that I just really, it was a fun conversation. I really enjoyed it. But like, is it up the road or is it down the street? Right.
Oh man, golly, yeah.
Depends.
I remember like people in the South probably more than other places say yonder, like
Yonder.
over
Oh, yeah,
yonder.
yonder.
Over yonder.
And I remember growing up, I was doing this service project, like I think it was like Habitat for Humanity or something. We were building a house, and I'm just like, probably middle school kid, and there's this older guy, kind of an old school guy that was like grandpa kind of guy, that was like directing everybody, and he was like, go over yonder and fill that bucket up with this, and like, so he was telling me to go get this bucket over yonder. And I'm like,
where's yonder?
I went around, I like couldn't find it. I came back, I was like, hey, where'd you say it was? He's like, right over yonder, son, right over yonder. And I'm like, where is yonder? You know, it's just like so
Like,
vague, you know.
that?
But yeah, I
That's
love
funny.
all that kind of stuff.
I don't know if I've told you this. I try not to have like the same like golf jokes in the golf course all the time. And I know we played golf.
Jokes.
You know how some people like,
Yeah.
I play with people and they'll have like this, like they're 3 or 4 like they like to share. And I've heard this one before. We've done this dance before. But I've played golf. My mom lives but has a condo down in Florida on a golf course.
Oh yeah.
She doesn't play golf at all. And I'm like, just come with me. You can sit around, have a drink in the cart, whatever. And I'm not great at golf by any means, but there was a short hole, and it was a par 3, and got it on the green and won. And I go, Mom, this is for birdie. And she goes, who's birdie? Like, what are you talking? Like, who is that? I don't know who birdie is.
This is for birdie. Yeah, it is funny. Like,
where's yonder?
Who's Birdie?
Yeah, it is really funny when someone doesn't have experience.
Context,
The context, and then what you hear because you don't have context.
Yeah.
My wife might not like me for this little anecdote, but Destiny, my sweet ever-loving wife, she got into golf as we started dating, and honestly, she's really good. I always tell people we played Kalina's Golf Park, which is a little chip and putt kind of course. Yeah. But her first day ever, she literally had 2 birdies and I think 3 pars. I mean, most of these holes are like 50 yards, but if you never played golf in your life, that's pretty amazing. But
yeah.
That's a good day for me.
Anyway.
That's played 20 years.
Right.
I know. I would take that. I don't think we play there all the time, and you know, I don't think either one of us are getting more than 2 birdies tops.
Yeah.
But anyway, I loved it because I love golf, and now my wife is loving golf, and so we try to play whenever we can. And you know, you have all these things like, oh, you got an eagle, you got a birdie, albatross. There's all these like funny, all this funny lingo. And I remember one day, Des was about to hit a shot. I was like, what do you want? Your sand wedge? Or she was like, give me my pigeon wedge. I was like, wait, what? It's like, pigeon wedge. And like, she thought that the pitching wedge was a pigeon wedge, and I can only imagine it almost makes sense because you got birdies and eagles, and you know,
it makes a lot of sense.
And it's just like,
so what is it called?
it's
pitching.
called
Pitching?
okay,
Okay.
like a pitch, like a baseball pitch.
Yeah.
Like throw
A
the
pitching,
ball.
a pitching wedge. And she said pigeon. Oh my gosh, I
but
love
pigeon
this.
wedge. I was like, so now I call it pigeon
I
wedge.
will now also call it a
Yeah,
pigeon wedge.
from here on out. Anyone listening to this,
That's
gotta call that a
amazing.
pigeon wedge. That's
Yeah,
hilarious.
It is funny though. Yeah, like y'all ever had like a realization when you're like, oh my gosh, I've either been not pronouncing that right my entire life, or I didn't realize that this was the lyric to the song after all these years.
No, so growing up, I mean, so my mom has a pretty thick accent even to this day, and it's quite adorable. I actually will make her say certain words, especially turtle, like the way she says turtle is adorable. And so oftentimes, I mean, just as a kid, I would just hear her say something, and I would just repeat what she said because I wasn't necessarily like reading it or whatever. And so when we lived in Texas, I was calling the fast food chain Whataburger. I was saying Whataburger the whole time,
Water,
and
like
Whataburger, like water, yeah, like Whataburger. I just would say it quickly, and I never like took the moment to. I could read at that stage in my life, but I never took the moment to read that it says "What a burger." And I swear it wasn't until many, 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 many years later. It might have even been during COVID, like that one trip that we took with a group of friends. We went to Austin, and we went, and I read it, and it said, "What a burger." And I'm like, oh my God, my whole life. My entire life, I'm over here calling it Whataburger? That doesn't even make sense.
The two that pop into my head are volleyball. I would call it volleyball because I never saw it like spelled out for a long time.
Volleyball.
made more sense. The other one is so the Sears Tower. I thought it was the World Series Tower for a very, very long time.
The World Series Tower. That's amazing.
I love the hilarity of those realizations. One of them, one funny one. At the camp I used to work at in Colorado, we would, it was like adventure sports, but it was mainly about like trying to mentor kids. And we would have a staff meeting with the guys, all the male counselors, and talk about like our cabins of kids and what they're talking about, what they're going through, how to help them out. And I remember, it was like a serious tone in this meeting. We're really trying to like help these kids and help each other, help them, And my friend Ryan, he's like being dead serious, talking about this kid and his life. The kid had opened up, and he's telling us, he's like, man, this kid has so many walls up in his heart, man. It's like a labyrinth. It's like a labyrinth. I can't find my way through. I don't know how to connect, because his heart is like a labyrinth. And we were like, I was like, Brian, do you mean labyrinth? And it was so funny because on his face, he was just like, he was like, you mean to tell me I've been saying that wrong my entire life? We were like, yes, Brian. You look like an idiot right now. He died. It was just so funny.
That's amazing.
He's a great guy, so we all just got a huge kick out of that. But there's so many things like that.
A labyrinth.
A labyrinth. So yeah, I always say that now.
Yeah.
A labyrinth.
That's amazing.
When my sister was little, she used to like... That would be. So as we're talking through this, I'm thinking of like two other things that popped in my head were, I would say Broughton which is not a word at all.
Right.
So it's like I should have brought in my jacket with me.
Oh.
Not a word.
No.
Didn't know it wasn't a word for a very, very long time.
Oh.
And then the other things.
Oh man, I say that. That's not a word.
You say broughten?
Yeah, I was
Not a word.
I'd brought it with me.
I would have brought it with me if I would.
Oh yeah.
Right?
You're just adding, like, you could just say I would have brought, and
Yeah,
like you're just
that's-
adding.
That sounds crazy.
Wow, that's crazy. I never realized that. That's not a word.
You're welcome. That's
Yeah.
your version of labyrinth.
There it is.
Labyrinth.
That's so funny.
The other one was my sister when she was super young. She used to say, so instead of just in case, like bring that just in case, she would say extra in case.
Extra
Extra
in
in
case.
case.
She's like, I'm gonna bring this extra in case I need it later.
Oh my gosh,
And I
so
I just
funny.
always really liked that. So try
That's
to
cute.
say extra in case.
Yeah, language. It's funny. It's a funny thing.
It's funny.
Well, I'm curious for now that it's been what, like a year and a half or so, almost 2 years. Has it been 2 years of like you being involved in 6 Degrees?
Probably
My
getting
goodness, I'm like,
closer.
where are we at
Yep.
this point? It's
Yeah, like
crazy.
2.5, I think.
Probably. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my
It's
gosh.
been 2.5. Yeah, that seems more right now. I'm thinking
That's
about it.
wild. Okay. Again,
Yeah.
time. What is time? I'm curious for you, just with connection being like the core of what 6 Degrees is about. Like, I'm curious, how has connection shown up for you, whether it's personally or in the business, but for either a life-changing connection for you that's happened for your business, or even one that you've made for somebody that just had such a big impact on the way that you even view what connection can do for somebody?
Man, well, I mean, just thinking about 6 Degrees, I mean, it's very aptly named, you know?
Yeah.
It is amazing to find out just how many few degrees of separation there are between, you know, like I met, for example, Darcy years ago.
Yeah.
And then I guess it was in some work project I was working at Sochi at the time, kind of like a social media marketing company, and we had some kind of overlap. And then years go by, and then we kind of met again through 6 Degrees, and then through meeting her, now we work together and meeting someone else all along the way, and you just see it kind of cascading from there. I mean, it's all been kind of in a, I guess I wouldn't say that there's not one big thing popping to mind right now, but just like the overall benefit of being part of 6 Degrees and the overall volume of people I'm meeting and connecting with, and it turns into a project here or there, you know, like I'm just super thankful for that. And you realize there's a lot more interconnectedness between the people in the communities than you realize, you know, like same thing with Andrew Skirty and other people, you know, like I'd crossed paths with them in the past, and it's like, wow, there's actually a big web here of people that you can tap into, you know, if we can get out there and do it, you know. And y'all are facilitating that, which is highly needed and really appreciated by a lot of people. First and foremost, myself, you know.
No, appreciate you.
Thanks
And
for sharing. I mean, it was really cool when we learned about the connection with Darcy, and like that was reignited when you reconnected through 6 Degrees, and then now working together, and it's been multiple projects together, and I was like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, and the co-working space
great.
that you work out of is her co-working space, right?
Yeah, so, you know, if I hadn't bumped into her through 6 Degrees, and then she told me that she and her husband Ryan have the co-working space, which was perfect for me at the time because Nora was a little baby and it was basically impossible to work at home. So that really helped. And, you know, we're working on projects together right now. So, yeah, it's great to see it all kind of, to see the real world impact of, you know, the relationships you form.
Yeah.
And, see it just expand.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
That's really cool.
But
Cool.
honestly, I guess this might be like in closing for me, but I think this is a really awesome setting for y'all to get a deeper glimpse into all the different members of 6 Degrees, for the community of 6 Degrees to listen to the episodes. And it's just a great, really humanizing break from what can otherwise be a grind of life, you know, when we're all working and doing everything. But it's just, it's great to stop and sit still and just talk to some good people for a while, and it just deepens your relationship. Yeah, it's just a good thing, you know, in a world of we're only on Zoom. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's good to be embodied
To be
and
live.
in person. And
Yeah, it's one of our favorite things.
Yeah.
Honestly, it goes by so fast.
It
We
does.
Just an hour and a half just flew by, and I always leave this room and just sitting after we sit down with anyone, every single time, I feel more connected with you. I learn more about you and whoever's in the chair, and it gets me excited and gets me energized to, keep doing what we're doing. So thank you for being part of it.
Yeah. Well, since you put me on the spot for the check-in, I'm going to make you do the reinforcement.
Well, Tucker's got to go, and yours was a 3-word thing. So what's the 1 word? What's the 1 word each of us are feeling as we head out the rest of the day?
Well, I can go first. I guess I would say energized or enlivened or something like that. Yeah, just being able to like sit down and have a fun conversation really kind of can put some wind back in your sails when you're just grinding away at work.
My 1 word is art.
Art. That's a good one.
Pigeon wedge.
Pigeon wedge.
2 words.
Shout out Destiny. We got to get back out on the golf course.
Can't wait to swing my pigeon wedge next time I play.
Yeah, we'll get it. We'll get it soon.
But then, thank you so much for
Thank
joining
y'all.
us. This was
Thank
fun.
you. What do you want to dive into with Tucker?
The 2 things that stuck out to me from the conversation with Tucker is, one, every time I talk to him, I just feel calmer.
Mm-hmm.
The way he speaks and the tone, and there's this rhythm to it.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me want to slow down, and it makes me want to be more present and be more intentional with my words.
Which I do think is part of what came to mind for me when he was talking about his daughter and the wonderment piece. And I didn't say it on the episode, but I definitely thought, oh, how cool that kids are really present. They're very present in whatever they're focused on, whatever they're enjoying, whatever they're doing. Just from the outside looking in of watching kids run around, is because they don't have as many distractions yet, or they're not necessarily overthinking about themselves. At least for me, there's a lot of noise in my head, right? So many of us, we really care about what other people think of us and how they perceive us, and so when that innocence is still there, I can actually be really, really present in this moment because that noise isn't there yet.
Sure, the outside. I don't even know what the outside world could be saying, right? I haven't been it hasn't ruined me yet.
Mm-hmm.
So the other part of the really deep part of that conversation was the innocence of a child, and part of I guess there's just a question around do you remember was there a moment or anything for you? This could be a dicey question, but was there a moment where I'm not the innocence is gone?
Definitely a dicey question, just because there's a very personal story that I'm going to choose not to share it on here. I'm a very open and vulnerable person, and I'll share most things. I think that just for this medium, at least with the audience that we have, doesn't necessarily make sense. What I will say though is I don't think I knew that the innocence was gone or it was being shattered when it happened.
I don't think anyone does.
Looking back, I can definitely see ooh, that was certainly a moment in time where that starts to break. The innocence starts to shatter or starts to fall off or whatever, however I'm envisioning it. But
yeah,
certainly I can start to pinpoint those moments, and it just keeps breaking off, probably piece by piece.
Yeah, I don't know that for some people there might be a moment, or there might be an awareness around parts of innocence fading, or the thing that pops into my head is when my parents got divorced. That was a very impactful part of my life. I was around 10, 11, 12, whatever. I don't even know the specific age, because it was all kind of a mess, but there was very much like before that happened and after that happened.
Sure. Yeah, I guess like for me, it's more about like, when's the first time where I felt like I either did something wrong, or I was holding, or I did something in secret, or I was, quote, in trouble for something, right? That's the moment where it's like, ooh, I did something bad. Something bad happened. And like, that's where I'm no longer like this perfect little child. It's like, oh no, like I made a decision that was, quote unquote, bad or wrong.
Oh, that's interesting, because I don't really think about it that way. Because, I have nieces and nephews at this point, and like they just don't even know what's right and wrong, and I see them make mistakes and get yelled at or disciplined or whatever it is, and they're all under 5. So is that actually the start of it? Is like we're indoctrinating these kids into what is right? I'm right, I'm wrong, I'm good, I'm bad.
Well, I think it goes into when we talk about coaches, not cops, and what happens when I start to become a cop and tell somebody no. The little kid, like you've used this example before of the little kid, and we're excited because they're starting to walk towards us, and like we're like yes, 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 and then the first time that we're telling a kid no, like don't do that, right?
Yeah.
And then like that's the moment of like, ooh, I got a no, I got a negative. I just did something wrong. I just did something bad. To me, that's just where I think like that the innocence piece, because to me like innocent means like I can do no harm. I didn't do anything wrong. I'm innocent, right? And it's like part of the innocence piece.
Sure, yeah. I mean, as you're talking about it, I'm hearing it more as like I'm just kind of slowly chipping away at it.
Yeah.
Versus like this bigger. I guess when we were talking to Tucker, and when I asked the question, it's like, when was it gone? There is no part of that left, right? And of that being like the innocence part.
Do you feel like you have zero innocence? It's gone
Of
completely?
what of the way a kid operates in the world. I don't think I don't have innocence. I
Sure.
think that there's a purity, or there's like Tucker was talking about, like the wonder of being a kid.
Yeah.
And it's almost like a spark. Like there's a little flame that gets put out. Is maybe a better analogy of it. And
yeah. I guess like I do think it's more of like a chipping away thing than like a big moment thing, right? Because even just thinking about like the innocence and the wonderment, it's like when we used to play pretend, and then all of a sudden we get told at a certain age, oh, like our parents or someone would be like, you're too old to have an imaginary friend. That's weird. That's not normal. That's whatever, right? And it starts to be like there's this negative piece of it. It's like, oh, but what if that's just creativity? And like, what if that's just like that's my imagination? And yeah, that part, I think, just like little by little, it's just to start fitting into social norms.
Well, yeah, like even with just imagination, right? And this is kind of a conversation we've had with Paige around like part of what she does with improv is getting adults to play again.
Yeah.
And so even like imagination and using my imagination and playing or pretending, we don't do that as adults. It's not part of our lives unless I'm in something like an improv group or
yeah,
right?
I have to make the conscious decision to want to include it. I have to make the decision that to play versus a kid that's just going to play because the kid wants to.
Well, yeah, because
they still have all their innocence.
Yeah, it was a really interesting conversation with Tucker around it, because it made me think about, I guess what I'm thinking about and when I'm asking it to you is like, so Hank, Daphne, and we haven't met Brooks yet, but all of my sister's kids,
Mm-hmm.
like there's gonna be a moment where they get to a certain point and they're like, oh, you lost it, it's gone because we're not there all the time, and because there's not gonna be a thing that happens and we see it. But like we're gonna show up to a birthday party and be like, what happened?
Maybe I just don't know if I agree with that. No, I don't know that I agree that it's just going to be like this like day that we show up and like something's so drastically felt like they've like lost something or something's gone. I think.
You don't think we're gonna show up one day and Daphne has like goth like makeup on and
I don't,
all black.
I don't see
Wednesday
her.
vibe.
No, I don't see her going down the Wednesday path. She is so girly and sparkly, but that's the thing is like even from a very young age, each of them are already showing so much of personality that I don't think I'm going to be shocked by like showing up one day and it's like, oh my gosh, this is so crazy or so different or whatever. I think I just don't agree.
Interesting. I guess I'm saying it more of they're gonna get older, they're gonna grow up, they're gonna become adults, quote unquote adults, and there is this watching them like the magic of Disney or the magic of Christmas and Santa Claus and like that disappears at some point.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
It's more like it's not like I'm not necessarily saying that they're gonna change, but there's gonna be this. I think. Just with what we were talking about with Tucker, it was like how do I keep like what if I could have kept more of that alive? What if I could operate from a place of wonder and imagination and be more playful and not be so just dragged down by life and bills and all the stuff that comes with being an adult.
Yeah.
It's more like the weight of the world. It's
Yeah.
like seeing the weight in the world of someone.
Right.
Or seeing the weight of the world. Seeing someone like grab the weight of the world.
Yeah.
Or be brought down by it.
Yes.
Like to me, it's like that's inevitable for any kid, no matter how much personality they have. No matter, you know what I mean? It's like I guess fuck, the world got you. That sucks.
Sure. Yeah. I guess like I don't see it as like this moment and then one of the times that we go visit and it's all of a sudden it's just so sure when a kid starts to grow up and isn't really believing in Santa or like it doesn't really feel the same magic of Disney or whatever, I think it just gets moved to a different passion, right? Maybe it's music or maybe it's theater or maybe it's sports or maybe it's whatever the thing might be, right? And it just kind of transitions. And then I still think it's more of like a slow chip away because once kids are in school and they get exposed to other people and they're gonna see a lot more of the world, right? Your sister's doing a really wonderful job of, in my eyes, right? There's nothing wrong with the screens and everyone has their own version of how long people are on screens and what that looks like. I do appreciate how much she keeps screens away from the kids, but not only that, it's more of setting the example. I really appreciate that she sets the example that she's not really on her phone in front of the kids, so she's practicing being present when she's with them. But once that barrier is broken, like of course there's another little piece and like there's the social media element and so many little things that are going to keep happening. And then we're in our 30s and we're like, oh my gosh, the weight of the world. What happened to my play?
Yeah, it just makes me sad to think about. I guess is
to think about those kiddos.
Like the innocence of a child disappears for the majority of us.
Sure, I mean
that's I guess that's
it
what
is the majority of our lifetime.
That's what I mean by it's inevitable, right? Like it's more often than not. I said in this episode where it's, well, I grow older but not up, but most people still grow up. And
most people grow up. Yep.
We even almost guilt people into it. It's like you should grow up. Like you should be whatever age you are. There's certain milestones or certain checkpoints that shouldn't be living at home at whatever age is socially acceptable at this point. I actually don't even know what.
I don't know because it seems like younger generations are staying put in their parents' homes.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess like I said, the conversations I thought about my niece and my two nephews and how like there's going to be a time where like the innocence is going to be chipped away at, or is going to be, if it's a flame, it's going to be completely extinguished, and it's going to be like, what happened? And more likely than not, like it's going to happen. It's just a question of when and how, and I don't know. Is there a way to keep it? How do I keep it for them?
Play. How can you be the example of continuing to play when they start to like want to be cool and fit in and right? How can we be examples for them that our uniqueness is really powerful, and the creativity and the play and the innocence and just the power within that.
Yeah. Just life is so serious, it feels like.
It is very serious.
And it's actually not at all.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be.
Yeah.
I wish it wasn't. Not shouldn't, but I wish I was able to laugh at things more. I felt lighter about me and the way I show up in the world and everything that's going on. It feels very heavy, and
It absolutely does.
just feels like a lot. And with what you said earlier is like the innocence part of being a kid. It's magic. It's so cool.
Yeah.
So
It's really cool to watch it.
Yeah.
To see it.
Yeah, and I guess maybe that's, we've talked about not being parents,
Mm-hmm.
right? And we're on the same page with not necessarily wanting kids, probably more now than any other time. And at the same time, part of me being okay with that is like having nieces and nephews.
Right.
And it's like, well, I want to be around that.
Yeah.
If it's not my kid, like I want to be able to, I want to absorb as much of that as possible.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely a big driving factor of why Denver is very high on our list of where we want to expand 6 degrees to, right? It's like, well, selfishly, like this could be cool.
We've talked about that. I don't even know that that necessarily makes sense. There's reasons for it to make sense, and there's parts of it that don't.
Sure, I'm just sharing that there's a selfish reason, and it's part of the reason why it's in conversation.
Uh-huh.
That's all.
Oh, okay.
Okay, put her there, bub.
Put her there, bub. It was quick. It was very efficient.
Did you have more to talk about?
I don't know.
We it ended weird, and I was like, okay, I didn't have anything else to say about it.
I don't know. I'm picking up weird energy.
Well, no, it was just there. I guess there was twice within that conversation that I said something that was just and then he was like, "Oh, well, I don't really think that's even in the." I was like, I was just saying that there's a reason why Denver's on the list of places that we want to expand to, because I was trying to reinforce you being around your family.
Sure.
And then it was like, oh, well, I don't even know if that makes sense. I'm like, cool. We're not having a business conversation. We're having a family conversation, and I'm trying to show that we want to support you being around your family more, and how cool if business is expanded to Denver, then there's a lot of trips going to Denver.
Yeah, I guess I was just in my head around someone listening to this podcast and then going like, oh, I don't like what you guys are saying. And recently we were like, I don't know if we're going to have this business in a couple by the end of the year or some version of that. And like that was in my head. We're going from that to talking about expanding to Denver?
I think sharing our vision and sharing the parts of 6 degrees that get us really excited, and the ideas that we have about what expansion could look like and the reasons for it. And yeah, we have people who are listening. Hey, Dave, shout out. Thank you for listening. And so when we say things, and like, how cool to get feedback from somebody who's listening. So maybe by sharing, like, yeah, Denver's on our mind, that would be kind of cool. Maybe someone's like, oh, you know what? I actually have a network of people in Denver that would be so excited to do this, and like, if you guys are serious, let me know. You know what I'm saying? Just sharing it doesn't mean that that's what we're doing. It's just like, yeah, this is something that we thought of and we've talked about. There's a lot of things that business owners, and us in particular, that we've talked about and have not done.
Yeah, I guess I'm aware of that. I guess I'm also have lived with you and worked with you for long enough to know sometimes when we talk about things, it's just green light, go. And I have to be a little, it was like, I have to like pump the brakes a little bit. So yeah, I don't know. I was operating from like that's not like necessarily a real thing yet. So,
it's not. It's just
so let's be careful about how we talk about it. And yes to everything that you just said.
Yeah.
So doesn't have to be so fucking serious, Eric.
Like literally. Oh, that's funny. Thanks for proving your own point.
I love proving my own point. It's my favorite thing.
It's my favorite. Okay, now we can put her there.
Now we can do it for real.
Now we can put her there, bub.
I'll give you a real bub. Put her there.